The Indy cars are in Loudon, New Hampshire, New Hampshire International Speedway for the Slick 5200, round 12 of the PPG IndyCar World Series. Hello, I'm Paul Page. We've got a lot on our plate for you for today, but before we do that, there is still a lot of controversy left over from the race at Mid-Ohio 1 week ago. Now, let's go back and review that. The leader of the race was Paul Tracy. There was an incident in the keyhole, and Tracy was being chased by Al Unser Jr., and just ahead of him was Robbie Gordon trying not to be lapped. Now, you saw a yellow flag was waving going into this area of the course. Gordon lost control. Tracy went by on the inside, and as a result, he was black flagged, and that took him out of any chance for a win. Well, the real key is that waving yellow flag. The officials hadn't called for waving yellow, but nevertheless it was there. They didn't know it. The rule is quite clear. If you have a waving yellow flag, then you're going to have to be prepared to stop, get that car under control. So in reality, perhaps all three drivers should have been penalized, and maybe Paul Tracy was denied a win. Now, there's been more action since then. Last night, IndyCar developed a new rule, and it basically says that if you recklessly endanger anybody at all, then the penalties will be very, very severe. Now, it continues to broil this way, too. Let's get the opinion of the participants in that actual action. We'll begin with Robbie Gordon. Here's Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, one of those drivers who escaped any penalty last weekend at Mid-Ohio is Robbie Gordon. Now, Robbie, in the aftermath of all of that last week, you've been accused of blocking, overdriving the yellow. You took some verbal shots at Paul Tracy saying that he choked in the situation. How do you respond to all of this controversy that's been generated?
Well, you know, Tracy compared me to some other drivers, and, you know, a rule's a rule. He passed me under the yellow. I was trying to stay on the lead lap, and, you know, if a caution would have come out, it would have put me behind Tracy on the same lap, and we had a chance to go for the win. But, you know, we took a good fourth-place finish there. We're right there in points, and, you know, the Valvoline car's been strong all year.
Now, I got to ask you, this morning at 9 o'clock for the warm-up session, the seat in your car was empty. You were nowhere to be found. Can you tell us what happened?
Oh, the seat wasn't empty. Buddy Lazier was in here. He did a great job warming up the car for me, and I want to thank him for that. And we had a little problem this morning, but we'll make up for it in the race.
All right, a little extra pressure for this young man, very much in the spotlight. Now let's get back to that confrontation of last week as we go to Jan Beekes.
Gary, the other driver in question is, of course, Paul Tracy. Now, Robbie Gordon claims he was not overdriving the yellow, nor was he holding you up. I assume you see that differently.
Well, you know, there's always a difference opinion when you get one driver from another, but, you know, I feel I was in the position to win the race. I was leading. He was being lapped, and it was a questionable call at best, I think. So, you know, we're professional drivers, and we don't need to get into a shouting match about it, but, you know, this is a different week, and that's water under the bridge, and hopefully we can do a good job this week, and it's not an issue.
Now, tell me, you have been a driver that has also tried to keep from going a lap down, and you've also been a driver that's led a lot of races. What do you think the responsibilities are of each driver?
Well, I think it all depends. When you come up on a pack of people and you're racing with people, obviously, if you're in a position to where you're going to gain some position, I feel in that situation, Robbie wasn't racing anybody. He was 50 seconds behind Emerson. He wasn't in a race with anybody, and it was just only me, myself, and Al and him. And it was, you know, it's just a situation where I think the call could have gone either way, but, you know, it's just, it's water under the bridge now. We're here at New Hampshire.
Well, thank you, Paul. You know, there have also been other announcements since last race, and Gary Gerald has more on that.
Certainly another major story this last week coming out of Mid-Ohio, the announcement by Bobby Rahal and Carl Hogan that they won't be using the Honda power plant next season. Bobby, have you made a decision as to what power plant you will use, and when may an announcement be coming?
We haven't made the final decision, but we would hope to maybe announce something probably around Elkhart Lake, I think. You know, we want to take our time, obviously, and make sure we make the right choice.
We should also point out Honda has said they're fully committed to IndyCar. They plan to be back in '95. The question now, what team will they be representing? Let's go back to Paul.
And those are just the stories leading into this race. But consider here 1 year ago. There are many feel that this was the best oval race in more than a decade. Tracy comes up to challenge Fittipaldi on the outside. They split around a slower car. Tracy comes into second place now. He dives for the lead alongside of Mansell, and Paul Tracy in a lap comes third to the lead.
It's not over yet. Look at Mansell. Quickly things change. Mansell saw an opportunity in traffic, sliced down the inside, and then suddenly got boxed in, and Tracy went to the outside. Look at the traffic jam here.
Up and Mansell loses it. Backs it down, catches the wall. That brings out the yellow, of course. Everybody gets by safely thus far, but it closed up the front of the field. The battle for second place. Nigel Mansell very definitely on the move as he attacks to the outside of Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi moves high to block him. Mansell comes down to the inside, and Nigel Mansell takes second place.
Look at this. Tracy protects that line. Mansell is right behind him again. Look at this.
And Mansell swings to the outside. Tracy down low. They dart in and out. They use the advantage of Stefan Johansson, and Mansell takes the lead. Heading for the third turn. Nigel Mansell makes the turn in. Tracy has little or no opportunity at this point. And here he comes. Happy 40th birthday, Nigel Mansell. The birthday win solidified Mansell's grip on the PPG Cup that eventually resulted in his championship. But it's 1994 and the players are back. Nigel Mansell, winless thus far in the season. Paul Tracy, denied victory a week ago, who has his eyes set on the PPG Cup, the symbol of the IndyCar Championship. The dominant power in the points fight is the current leader, Al Unser Jr., who today starts back in the pack as he searches for his second championship crown. Moving closer and closer to the start now of the Slick 5200 at New Hampshire International Speedway. Derek, at this point in the season, there are so many questions that need answers.
That's right, and as we watch Al Unser Jr. seem to get a firmer grip on this championship as the season rolls on, it gives us a little bit of time to reflect on some of the unanswered questions flying around IndyCar at the moment. Number one, of course, is Honda. Where will they go, or who will partner them? Remember, if they have another development year, it will be difficult to convince a front-running team to partner Honda again next year. Moving on to number two, Nigel Mansell. His IndyCar career does seem to be over after one spectacular and one lackluster year. However, his contract to go back to Formula One is not yet signed, but we do believe it is imminent. Then there's Paul Tracy. Now, this is an interesting problem here because he is under contract with Roger Penske. However, it is doubtful if Penske will run 3 cars again next year. But Roger Penske does not want to lose touch with one of the finest talents in IndyCar racing at the moment, so he has a dilemma. Now, we do hear a rumor that Carl Haas already has a handshake deal with Paul Tracy for next year. Fourth man, question is Villeneuve. Will he stay, will he go? Well, despite the presence of Peter Collins from Team Lotus of Formula One at his pit in Toronto, Villeneuve is already signed for a 3-year contract to remain with Barry Green in IndyCar racing. So that is just a sample of some of the questions flying around IndyCar racing at the moment.
So many great stories. I love the silly season, but let's get to the race now and take a look at the starting grid. On the pole is Emerson Fittipaldi, his first oval pole since the 90 Michigan 500. 0.2 of a second back is Raul Boesel for the 4th time this year. He starts on the front row as the command goes out to start the engines. In row 2 is Nigel Mansell with so many decisions ahead of him this year. And Paul Tracy, he led 130 laps here last year. In row 3, Mario Andretti, his most recent win came on an oval at Phoenix last year. And Dominic Dobson, this equals his best starting position for the year. Row 4, Teo Fabi, the last time Teo started higher was in 1993 at Long Beach. And Adrian Fernandez, this is his best start ever on an oval. In row 5, Stefan Johansson, he finished 4th earlier this season at Phoenix. And Al Unser Jr., who started 1 position further back at Milwaukee, but still went on to win. The 6th row, Jacques Villeneuve, in his rookie season, he's finished in the top 10 7 times. And Jimmy Vasser, 2 of his top 5s this year have come on ovals. Robbie Gordon inside 7. He has finished in the points in all but 2 races this year. And Eddie Cheever, his best ever finish came on the 1-mile oval at Phoenix. In row 8, Mark Smith and Ari Luyendyk. The 9th row, Michael Andretti and Scott Sharp. Row 10, Bobby Rahal and Mike Groff. The 11th row, Hiro Matsushita and Marco Greco. Row 12, Scott Goodyear and Willie T. Ribbs. In the 13th row, Johnny Unser and Ross Bentley, and all alone in the last row is Mauricio Gugelmin. So now the cars are ready to roll away. The balloons are floating into the air, and we're ready for 200 miles of action at New Hampshire International. Slick 5200, the IndyCar is rolling on the circuit here, and we are ready to go racing. Let's take a look at what's on the line here today. The race analysis here, 1.058 is the actual distance of this mile oval. 200 laps, race record, 133.621 miles an hour. Set, interestingly enough, by Bobby Rahal. First stops could come at 64 laps. Well, there's a problem with the weather here today. There is the threat of rain. When we were outside just a moment ago, you could feel the wind freshening, so that's going to play into the tactics of this race too, and that'll just make it that much more interesting. Now, Raul Boesel starts on the outside of the front row. There was some controversy yesterday, Derek Daly, in that he actually went out 2 different times before he actually qualified, and that was a violation of the rules.
It was a violation, and it was a mix-up on Wally Dallenbach's behalf. When he allowed Boesel to take that second run, from then on he contravened the rule. Now, other owners could have protested and taken Raul's qualifying time away from him. However, Dallenbach did apologize for his indiscretion. Dick Simon made an impassioned plea to the owners to allow Boesel's qualifying time to stand. It was allowed to stand, and thankfully Boesel now is on the front row of the grid.
I like the decision. I think it is in the best interest of the race itself. So there is Raul. Plenty of onboard cameras here for you today as the field now begins to rotate off of the last turn. There's Bobby Rahal's nose cam as they pick up speed, looking back from Adrian Fernandez with Al Unser Jr. right behind him, on board with Michael Andretti. And there is Robbie Gordon's camera. And here we come as look at Adrian Fernandez loses it on the start, and lots of people, including Gordon, get in trouble. So it's no start. It is a yellow. Adrian continues on down the pits.
And believe it or not, look at Robbie Gordon. He's undamaged, but he's backing down the front straight here, making sure he doesn't hit anything. Jacques Villeneuve and Arie Luyendyk are involved in the melee, though.
Villeneuve's got some real problems to the front of his car that may take him out of the race, but let's not be premature with that. There's Robbie Gordon sitting in his cockpit. This morning, it was alluded to early, Arie Luyendyk sitting against the wall with a lot of damage. Not hurt, he just can't believe it.
Villeneuve went absolutely head-on into the concrete wall, and that's why you see that resultant damage. But Gordon may have got away with it.
Here we go. Fernandez started it.
Adrian Fernandez clearly dropped the clutch, broke the rear wheels away, shot right across the racetrack, and believe it or not, has fully escaped as he comes down the escape road with the Budweiser car. Here's another angle here.
Oh, boy.
Luyendyk was an innocent bystander there. He got dragged in with Villeneuve. You could hear the impact as Villeneuve clouted the concrete wall.
Looking at it again, slow motion now. Again, watch the green and red car of Adrian Fernandez. His best starting position on an oval ever.
He's in 8th place. Villeneuve avoids him. He gathers up. Arie Luyendyk there. Villeneuve got 2 big hits. And it looked like Robbie Gordon actually took a simple avoiding action, and I believe he may have escaped any contact whatsoever. Look at Luyendyk.
Luyendyk's car with damage. Villeneuve already out of his car heavily damaged on the front end, so no start here. Yellow flies, the field circulates, and we'll be back with more from New Hampshire.
Also.
Boy, it didn't take much, did it?
You could see the wheel, you could hear the wheels begin to spin and chirp.
Robbie Gordon's view.
Watch him hit Villeneuve. Robbie Gordon could not avoid Jacques Villeneuve and just plowed right into the back of him.
All right, let's go to the pits. Gary Gerald.
They got Gordon restarted. He took 1 very slow lap under yellow. He's come in, and now they're going to replace the nose, I think. Yeah, they're making tire changes, obviously. They're going to replace the nose, and then they'll get him back out. But the key here, as you mentioned, Paul, the race has started, so he has already lost ground to the leaders. Let's go to Jan Beekes.
We're standing by with Jacques Villeneuve. Now, Jacques, you took the hardest hit of anyone. First of all, are you okay?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine, definitely.
What happened from your eyes?
Well, Fernandez lost it and came across the track, so I slowed down not to hit him, and then I think Robbie was behind me, and he just hit me, and then there's nothing I could do.
Short day for you today. We'll see you soon. Back up in Canada again.
Well, we got some testing on Tuesday and Wednesday in Nazareth. But it's sad because the car was going really strong in the warm-up this morning, stronger than it had been the whole weekend, so it was looking good for the race.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks.
Yeah, Forsyth Green Racing did have a good opportunity there. At least the good news, as we reported earlier, is that he will be back for at least another year, if not several. Let's go back as Robbie Gordon comes back in after a lap, checking that new nose. Let's just listen to Adrian's engine here.
You know, I think he went from second gear to third gear, dropped the clutch, then you hear that chirping of the rear wheels as they fight to get some grip, but the back's already getting away from it. It happened so fast, and of course he was at the front of the field and he gathered up so many other people.
So Robbie Gordon's day has not started that well. He overslept the first practice. Now he's involved in the middle of this and is not in the top 20. We continue to be under yellow. 5 laps complete. 5,200, Loudon, New Hampshire International Speedway, 1 lap away from the green. But look what the officials have done here. We're on the 6th lap of the race, but they have called for the field to go back into rows of 2. Actually, I kind of like that. Gary Gerald, can you give us an update?
Well, indeed we can, Paul. We had thought that they were going to change the nose on Gordon's car. They started to unfasten some of the bolts, but then they elected not to. There was not significant damage, so they kept the spare nose on this side of the pit wall. Gordon got back out. The key, they didn't want to lose another lap to the field. They're already significantly behind.
And if anybody got away with a crime without any punishment, it was Adrian Fernandez, because he caused all that schmozzle, yet he only lost 2 positions. He is now 8th in the race, having gone down through the pit lane and gone back into line after the blend line.
So 7 laps into the record book, and we are really coming to the start of the race here, absent Arie Luyendyk and Jacques Villeneuve. Fittipaldi accelerates. Look at Tracy poke his nose in the back of Raoul Boisel. Mansell tries to the inside. Mario closes on Mansell. Dominic Dobson gets a nice run on the start, too. It's Fittipaldi leading down the backstretch. The first real lap of racing. And we're back to yellow. Back to yellow immediately. Report of contact with Eddie Cheever's car. No indication of who he may have gotten into as they went through turn 2.
And Stefan Johansson peels off, but we could see clearly Teo Fabi was another driver who begun to get sideways under acceleration, but Tracy made a nice smooth transition to the high line and went outside Raoul Boisel to tuck in behind Emerson.
And this may have been the car with the contact as they go to work on the right front of Stefan Johansson's car. Let's go down to the pits, and here's Jan.
Arie Luyendyk is nursing a sore hand. You've been released from the medical center. What is the prognosis with the hand there?
It's just bruised, but the start was ridiculous. The pace car brought us down so slow, and the front row. You know, we're supposed to have rolling starts because they're safer than standing starts. Well, this was like a standing start. And, you know, I don't think I could blame Fernandez for spinning around and losing it, because the start of the race was just way too slow. You know, we should have been much quicker. That's why we have rolling starts, and that's what upsets me, that, you know, experienced guys on the front row bring it down that slow.
Your hand be okay for next week?
It'll be okay, but I was just really mad because my car, for some reason, it felt real good this morning in the warm-up, and it felt good out there now, and I was looking forward to a good race, and here we are spectating.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
So Arie Luyendyk doesn't blame Fernandez. He blames the officials on the start of the race.
And that's an interesting side to hear of the story. Now, we could hear Fernandez was in a low gear. As soon as he grabbed another gear, which is probably third gear, it broke away. Of course, if they had come down 10 or 15 miles an hour faster, he would already have been in that gear.
Let's go pit side again, Gary Gerald.
Well, Stefan Johansson made a quick stop. The crew went to work on the right front suspension. They were tugging, pulling, trying to see if anything was bent or damaged. He may have been involved in that contact. He has now gone back out to rejoin the field at the back of the pack. Apparently, he's going to be okay to continue.
The scary thing, Gary, about what we could see, the mechanics doing with Johansson's car? They were actually jumping on that top wishbone, trying to straighten it out. It looked like they were trying to straighten it out. Now, the stresses and strains that you get on high-speed ovals like this, that will be a worrying thought for Johansson. In fact, down the front straight here, as we look out of the commentary box at the booth here, he's actually yanking the car backwards and forwards to see, is everything strong enough to compete the race here.
So the way they will line up now with 11 laps complete, Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, Raul Boesel, Nigel Mansell, Mario Andretti, the top 5. Then Dominic Dobson, Adrian Fernandez, Al Unser Jr. in 8th, Teo Fabi in 9th, and 10th is Michael Andretti. They're going to give Robbie Gordon a black flag stop-and-go penalty for passing in the pit lane. We come back to speed.
Look at Tracy.
Tracy drops to the inside. Looks to block Fittipaldi getting into the corner. Fittipaldi won't have it. Boesel closes. So does Nigel.
Brave move by Tracy.
Whoa, another car spins it. Whoa, and that's a serious. Looked like Johansson. One of them upside down.
That's one of the Pac West cars. We can see it's a Pac West car. Huge crash on the back straight.
The field comes to a stop again. Not a good situation here. We'll keep an eye on it. Scott Sharp, but I don't see movement. We'll keep an eye on him. And we'll pray that everything's all right here. That's just a small turbocharged fire that you see. That's not a real problem to the car and not a threat to his safety.
So Mike Groff loses it, and he becomes a launching ramp for Scott Sharp's car, who then vaulted upside down. And Scott Sharp, you can see he moves, he takes the steering wheel off himself.
It looks like he's okay, and what he's afraid of is undoing his belts and dropping out on his head. The safety crew just now getting there. There they are.
And watch the launching ramp that Mike Groff's car becomes. Sends him upside down in a frightening, sickening succession of rolls, and thankfully you dissipate energy when you have crashes like this as you roll down the racetrack, no matter how spectacular it looks. The safety crews, they are there, and Scott Sharp, thankfully, we saw him motioning to the safety crews to say he was okay, but possibly unsure how to extricate himself.
Mike Groff slid off the course and backed into the wall, his car along the inside. You talk about courage, look at these crew members. You don't know what's there. There could be methanol spilled. You don't know the structural integrity of that car. IndyCar safety team is excellent.
The scariest thing for a driver when you have a crash this big and you're upside down is fuel spillage. You are virtually trapped, and all sorts of thoughts begin to race through your mind, particularly about the fuel spill. So Scott Sharp, in his rookie year, lives locally here in Connecticut, has lots of family and friends here supporting him. He only qualified 18th. But his car owner, who we just got a shot of earlier, Bruce McCaw, will be thankful that his driver is okay, because racing cars are disposable items. You can always replace them.
You saw Bill Luchow there on the kneeling down on the side of the car, give a thumbs up back toward the medical team. I'm sure that means that just what do we see? He's okay. He's not okay. He's fine. Unbelievable.
He is getting a standing ovation from the crowd here on the front straight, because they just realized it's in full view of everybody here. They just realized that he is safe, and that is the #1 thing that's important here.
Here's Robbie Gordon's view of this situation now that we know Scott's okay.
This is turn 2. There's Groff loses it. There's the launching ramp.
Oh, my goodness.
Whoa, Robbie Gordon.
I think Robbie got tapped in it. I think I heard an impact.
Yeah, wheel-to-wheel contact, an open-wheel car, causes some of this launching that we see with Scott Sharp.
Young Scott Sharp from up here in New England, smiling after that harrowing experience on the backstretch here in the Slick 5200. We'll be back. Third yellow of the day for the flip of the 71 car. Scott Sharp is okay, though they're going to check him over. This is Stefan Johansson. Remember, Derek said that there might be something wrong with that right front. Sure enough.
When you bend a suspension, then re-straighten it, it is weak. And the weak point has obviously broken here on Stefan Johansson's car. Now he's in the pit lane and Gary is there.
When he came in the first time, we saw the crew tugging and pulling. What we couldn't see was how badly crinkled the upper wishbone was. He went back on the track, had to come in. Now they're replacing the entire suspension assembly on that right front side. It was dramatically kinked. No wonder he couldn't hang on to the race car. That was a result of that contact with Cheever prior to the incident involving Scott Sharp. What a crazy, crazy way to get this race going today.
Stefan Johansson obviously upset with the fact that his race is so prematurely coming to an end, and hoping that they can get it back repaired and get it going. Look at this. Unbelievable.
Now he's just gone over the launching ramp. Watch here. One complete turn of the roll bar. Maybe does not actually hit the ground. Now he's firmly on the roll bar, but you can see the driver as Groff spins down to the inside. Scott Sharp protected in that survival cell that is the IndyCar cockpit as the rest of the car breaks up. Just what you like. Now watch this here, and we'll stop the video and show you how Scott Sharp had no option but to hit Mike Groff. There's Groff. Groff spins backwards. Let it run another little piece. Now stop right there. Now Scott Sharp has elected to go to the outside. There is no room. Roll the video. He now becomes a launching ramp. Wheel to wheel, up over the top of it. That is our unmanned camera there, thankfully. This is flying shrapnel, still doing maybe 125 miles an hour.
Well, and you know what we can't avoid here is how close Mike Groff came as the back of the car passed over the top of his cockpit. He may have, in fact, been in greater danger.
Now you see it from Robbie Gordon. You see how close he was. Gordon goes left. Watch this. Look at Groff right side. Boom. Does he hit him?
I think he did.
I don't know whether he hit him or not, but it was close.
Let's go to the pits again. Jan Beekes.
Well, the team owner of that car is Tom Armstrong. Tom, horrific crash. You could see it from this point. The good news is he's okay. Any indication from Scott on the radio or anything about the incident?
No, Scott was just complaining that somebody had spun and he got into the wall and got upside down, but I don't know any details on it. Scott talked all the way through it, so he's okay.
He had his finger on the radio button. What did he exactly? He was upside down flying through the air. He had his finger on the radio button?
He was explaining to the crew where he was and what was happening.
Wow.
Interesting.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Unbelievable. Tom's a co-owner with Bruce McCaw on that team. Scott Sharp radioing in, doing a little play-by-play of his own. We'll be back with more. Computer here is telling the tale of the race. 20 laps, 21 now, have been completed as they cross the line. All 20 have been completed under 3 different yellow flags. But look at this, after flipping end over end and upside down, or side over side and upside down, now walking back at the south end of the pits and past the Chief Stewart's car is Scott Sharp. And he said, I don't really need to go to the hospital. I'll go see my friends, tell them I'm okay.
Bravery does count for a lot when you race at high speed between concrete walls. But when you have nerves of steel to survive an incident like that, he probably has no idea how spectacular that was. Wait till he sees the video when he gets home. But to think that he was on the radio, calmly talking to his crew, probably trying to get the car fixed in time to get back going again.
That's a jet airplane engine being towed. It's mounted sideways to try and get the debris that may have been involved in that accident blowing off the track. Let's go to the pits now, and Gary.
I don't know what to say. Welcome to IndyCar racing. You've just gone through quite an adventure, and we understand you were talking to your crew much of the time, letting them know that obviously you were all right.
Well, it was pretty wild. It's funny, just before the start of the race, I was saying everyone had been so great all weekend. No one had crashed. They had full field to start the race, and it was quite a start. Mike just got loose and spun, and then I spun and sort of was backing it into the wall, more or less. That's all I remember is the car backed up, going backwards into the wall. Next thing I know, I sort of felt myself getting on top of him, and from there, I was just a pretty wild ride.
Now, this is your first major incident since you've come to IndyCar racing. What did it feel like? What are your thoughts? And are you at all apprehensive about getting back in and doing it again?
No, I wish I could fix the car right now. But, I mean, it was a real light hit, and obviously I was pretty comfortable, else I wouldn't have been able to sit there talking to the guys upside down forever. so it wasn't too bad.
I know they're anxious to get you in the medical center and give you a thorough checkup. We appreciate your time.
Thanks.
All right, there you have the story from the man who really took a ride.
Unbelievable. Stefan Johansson went out and tried a couple of laps, and then they finally pulled it back into the garage area. So they continue to circulate under yellow. 23 laps complete. Emerson Fittipaldi was the pole sitter, and they'll probably put him back in that order. Here in the Slick 5200 at Loudon, and actually got a full lap into the record book under green. Look at Raul Boisel as he challenges second place Paul Tracy. Tracy comes off the wall, dials down to the middle of the track. Boisel tries him down on the inside. Here's another note for you. Despite all those little increments of green, 3 different increments of green before, Michael Andretti started 17th and is now up to 6th. Raul Boisel, the guy of the moment, as he continues to try on Paul Tracy.
Trying to force the issue down on that inside line. Tracy, look, he comes down to the middle of the racetrack, making it more difficult for Boisel. Tracy tried to hang on to Emerson, but then got embroiled in his own battle with Boisel, and that's the 2 Newman-Haas white cars behind, being led by Mansell.
So Raul Boisel has been so close so many times before, is now on the edge of desperation at scoring a victory in the Indy cars. And every crew member up and down the line will say if anybody deserves a win, it is Raul Boisel. The leader of the race is Fittipaldi. He just cut the fastest lap of the race at 163.1 miles an hour. Mansell and Andretti run 4th and 5th, with Andretti closing.
And Mario has been fast here all weekend. In the test here just after Toronto, Mario was the fastest car here and has been fast every session. Has blown 2 engines, though, right before qualifying. One went on Friday, so he is looking for reliability today. Matt Schuster pulls down to the inside.
Maybe the onboard cameras will help us tell, but we're getting a lot of reports of moisture around the track. You're on board Nigel Mansell back in 4th place, and nothing real obvious here. So if there is moisture, it's very humid here, so it may be at times actually difficult to tell.
Back straight, 195 miles an hour they pull in top gear. They get on the brakes, not hard, just brush them. As they exit the corner, 155 miles an hour here, and then they accelerate. Mansell, remember, holding off Mario and trying to catch Boisel.
Nigel Mansell closing just a bit now, 4/10 behind Raul Boisel, who is trying to close on Paul Tracy. Mike Groff also involved in that earlier accident. He's with Gary Gerald.
Indeed, a quick word, Mike. You've been released by the safety folks. We know that you're okay. What happened? You were saying this set up on the first turn?
Well, actually, things got a little bit jammed up going into 1, and everybody seemed to be packing up low. And I went on the high side, and Scott Sharp and I touched wheels going into 1. And that kind of got me moving a little bit through the corner, and I ended up spinning on the exit because of it.
This is a big crash, but I guess it's probably not as big as the one you endured at Indianapolis.
We definitely had problems there, too, and it's unfortunate because the Motorola team did a great job getting us in the race. We had a good warm-up, and, you know, it's unfortunate. I think it comes down to, you know, that's racing, but, you know, things got a little close, and we got pinched off.
Thank you, Mike. Paul?
As the leaders on lap 33 begin to overhaul traffic, Raul probably had his best chance at Tracy just a few seconds ago. Couldn't get the job done. Now he closes back in. Still plenty of traffic ahead.
And Boisel may be mindful that he flew off the road here while in contention last year, exiting turn 2. You have to be careful. But the traffic that we see, the leading cars pick its way through from here on in, is what Loudon, New Hampshire racing is all about. That's Al Jr. trying to force the issue with Michael.
Al Unser Jr., remember, started back in the field. He did that at Milwaukee and won. He's alongside Michael. Mauricio Gugelmin, Michael's teammate, is actually the slowest car in the field at this point. They overhaul him, and Michael ducks in behind Little Al.
And you can clearly see there that Al Unser Jr.'s Penske outhandled Michael's Reynard. Michael was in the lead. He was on the high groove. Probably experienced push or understeer. Al Jr. comes down the inside, plants his foot on the floorboards, and away he goes. Look how much he pulls out in a lap and a half.
Unser Jr. now charging up through field, runs in 6th place. Michael Andretti is 7th. Dominic Dobson setting up just behind Michael Andretti now and beginning to challenge him as Al Unser Jr. runs all alone, trying to catch up to Mario Andretti.
Al Jr., the championship leader, had a very poor performance in qualifying. He qualified just after the modified cars here on Saturday afternoon. I think that put him sideways a little bit because of the 3 Penske cars. He qualified all the way down in 10th place. Not very good for the championship contender.
At the top of the field, it's Fittipaldi, a 2.5 seconds ahead of Paul Tracy, then Boisel, then Mansell. Here's something we've added this week for you to try to give you a chart entirely down through the field. The car number is after the driver if you want to make your own chart on this, or look for your favorite driver. We'll try to go back to this a number of times during the race. That's a little bit of you asked for it, you got it.
So Al Jr. now mindful of the championship. He is one of the masters at understanding that to win a championship, it starts in March and doesn't end till October. Spectacular performances on the day is not his style if the car doesn't have it in it. As Eddie Cheever moves aside. Cheever, we don't see any damage. I didn't see any pit stops after that reported contact earlier with Stefan Johansson.
Eddie Cheever on the side pods of his car is carrying a number 28. And a get well Ernie, of course, referring to Ernie Irvin and his terrible accident yesterday in Michigan.
Oh, Al Jr. taking advantage of traffic here. He's catching Mario. That's what he wants. Mario is in his sights. That's Mario right there. Can't quite hang on to Mansell. But traffic plays such a huge role here at New Hampshire. Gives us tremendous racing.
Little Al reels in Mario Andretti. Down the backstretch. There's Mario. Little Al closing. Almost on top of him. The battle will be for 5th. There it is.
How quick is Al Jr. when he runs by himself? He just set the fastest lap of the race. Over 164 miles an hour average. That's just the average.
The entire front end of the field now begins to close up. Fittipaldi, Tracy, Boisel, Mansell, and Andretti. Pretty soon they're going to be running all together.
So many cars this weekend under the existing track record set last year. Now the track has been resurfaced, but many people think that the softer compound Goodyear tires. Here comes Al Jr. on a slingshot.
Little Al tries to move under Mario. Mario brings it across and keeps him back. Little Al loses a little momentum there, comes high off of the corner.
I mentioned the Goodyear tires. The compound is softer, but it does go off a little bit quicker than what they're used to here. Mario will not be easy to pass.
Little Al tries that approach down the inside again. Again, it doesn't work. He tries to pick up momentum on the exit of the corner. Again, he comes to the inside.
Oh, force the issue down the inside. Now look at this. The handling of the Penske is much better through and off these corners. That's where he seems to gather up momentum and catch Mario. However, when they get side by side, that Ford power still seems to have the legs on Al Jr. down these straights. That's where Jr.'s quick. Look at the slingshot.
Emerson Fittipaldi and I were talking about that yesterday, and Emerson finally looked at me and says, what do you think Ford is actually doing with that engine? It is powerful at the front of the field. Fittipaldi and Tracy, with Tracy trying to move outside of Fittipaldi.
Oh, there is racing room. You do have 2 distinct racing grooves here. Emerson holds the inside. Tracy makes it.
Tracy stay there? Look at him just whip around the outside and pick up the lead of the race. Paul Tracy in front. Boisel closing. Mansell closing. They're in traffic again.
Here we go again. Everybody's all crowded in the one piece of racetrack, but Tracy, who has such an uncertain future as we speak, is the man who takes control. Now Boisel attacks his countryman.
The view from Mansell's car, the left-hand side. Boisel dials way to the outside. Mansell comes inside of Mark Smith.
Second, third, and fourth, all in a line here. Boisel is quicker. Look,
Boisel moves to the outside around Fittipaldi. Can he hold that position? He'll trap him behind the slower car of Guzman.
So clearly you see the good handling Emerson enjoyed. Look at
this. Here comes Nigel on the charge with Fittipaldi. So the leader of the race is now moving steadily backward as Mansell gets gets him.
Subtle changes to the handling. Look, they sandwich the Hollywood car up Maurizio Gugelmin. Mansell on the outside. I just mentioned a couple of laps earlier, these tires tend to go off a little bit quicker than normal. The Fittipaldis clearly have gone off, and Al Jr. still tries to get by Mario.
Al Unser Jr. in his continuing battle with Mario for 5th place.
You see what Mario did there? He blocked him. He blocked him and boxed him in behind Gugelmin. Perfectly legal. He just picked the racetrack, the piece of racetrack he wanted. Al Jr. had to back off.
Think over his career now on his Arrivederci Tour, how many times Mario has seen these situations develop and how foxy he is. Now it's little Al down along the inside. Mario knew there was no chance to hold him back there. And so he lets him go. And Al Unser Jr. driving some superlative corners here. Closes now toward the front.
And the radio frequency that we do monitor up here, Roger Penske just okayed Al Unser Jr. to slip down a gear to 5th and to go ahead after Mario, and he gets Emerson also.
Little Al takes Emerson. So now he moves into 4th place. Nigel Mansell is the next in his line.
And it's a compromise when you set up these racing cars. If they start with push, sometimes they go to loose. Look at this, has a little look around the outside.
Mario works on Fittipaldi. Are we seeing two different strategies at play here? Has Fittipaldi decided to drop back? Go ahead and let the lead run away?
Well, no. He is definitely in trouble because he has dropped back way too fast. The decision comes whether he should go to the pit lane, and he does. Whether he will go to the pit lane right now and get a new set of tires on or struggle with low speed, and obviously there's the decision made right there.
So Emerson Fittipaldi grabs the pits.
Look at the marks on the tires. Look at that, the black marks on both front tires as he grapples with what I think is a push or an understeer situation.
Fittipaldi out of the pits, 4 new tires. That'll put him well back in the fight, but he had no choice.
Tom Brown is Emerson's engineer. They were all smiles after qualifying because, to be quite honest, Emerson didn't really show his hand until qualifying came. They trimmed it out a little bit on the wings, and suddenly the elder statesman just blasted and grabbed the pole. But he looked strong until about 45 laps into this race.
Twice the Indy cars have raced here at New Hampshire. Twice the pole sitter has won the race. What about Emerson today? He reported to his crew that his car is swimming like a fish. I assume that means that it was squirreling back and forth all over the track. Let's go pit side, Jan Beekens.
Well, it turns out that we're having a tire blistering problem. Emerson Fittipaldi has blistered the front tires of his Marlboro Penske. That's why he radioed in that he had understeer. They're trying to obviously block this right now because the Goodyear engineers are trying to keep everybody out of here. It's pretty frantic down here, but it looks like he might have a potential tire problem, Paul.
Well, if he has it, then you have to assume everybody has it.
Jan, we had just spoken about the softer compound that Goodyear brought here for this weekend. It has made everybody go fast. Why do you think they brought a softer compound? Well, it is in preparation for the Firestone onslaught to IndyCar racing next year. They're preparing right now for the battle.
Unser Jr. around Mansell, now on the attack for 2nd place, Raul Boesel. Though those attacks are getting a little more difficult. They're bottled up behind Bobby Rahal, who has been giving wide berth to the corners and letting the leaders come through.
A neutral handling car will preserve its tires better. We have seen Al Jr. particularly good in the corners. Maybe he has a neutral handling car that allows him to be brave like this, and he passes Boesel.
But he gets caught up behind Rahal, but not caught for long. Around inside Rahal, Boesel back to 3rd place. Look how fast they pull away from Rahal's car. In the front of the field, it's Tracy, Unser, Raul Boesel. We'll be back. The chairman of Slick 50. Bill keeps an eye on this race. But he thought it wasn't going to get underway there for a while. We're now 64 laps deep in it. A little over 64 miles. Paul Tracy is the leader. Nigel Mansell is back in 3rd as Al Unser Jr. got around him, and then Mansell got around Boesel. Boesel then sits in 4th place, and Mario Andretti sits in 5th, followed by Teo Fabi, Michael Andretti, Dominic Dobson, Jimmy Vasser, and Adrian Fernandez. Fittipaldi trying to find his way back through the field, fell back to 14th, is now up to 12th. when he went in to change all 4 tires. There's Tracy, the leader, as now they're in that situation on an oval where they're almost constantly in traffic.
Familiar role for Paul Tracy to lead, but he is about to have his hands full with his teammate Al Unser Jr., who spends more time during practice preparing for his race setup than probably anybody else here. And here's the result of it. Always quick over the long, long run on a full tank of fuel.
With Dominic Dobson in the middle, they work their way around the slower car first of Willie T. Ribbs and then Mark Smith. Unser Jr. looking for room and decides the outside is the better place to go. And that interesting comparison of lines.
That's right. That seems to be his favorite line, to go high and around the outside, which means you actually have to make the car do less work. You can only do that if you have a neutral handling car, which Al Jr. seems to have. And remember, that preserves the tires. Nothing makes race cars go faster better than preserved good tires.
Wouldn't you also say it requires quite a bit of courage, because he's taking it right to the wall when he comes out?
The car gives you confidence. Then you don't need the courage. You know it can do it. You don't need to be brave. But Tracy is not as quick. Here's a slingshot.
Al makes the move for the lead. Michael Andretti in front of Tracy, not a factor. And take a look at closing in. There's Mansell.
So maybe Paul Tracy is beginning to suffer a similar problem that affected Emerson, because Mansell is right with this leading group here. The longer it goes, the better Mansell and Al Jr. seems to get.
And Al Unser Jr. grabs the lead away from Tracy. Mansell closing in. Remember these players a year ago? Tracy and Mansell. Let's get an update on Nigel Mansell, who moves into second place. Gary Gerald.
He just flashed by us and swings to the outside line as he heads for turn 2, and the crew took a deep breath as they watched that bold move by the defending champion. They expect on their stop that could be within the next 10 laps, they're going to make a change. They'll go down 1 turn on the left front side of the wing only, not the right, but the left. Now, how will that impact the handling of the car, Derek?
Gary, we're trying to monitor as many of the frequencies here as we can, and more people as this run goes on actually now begin to ask for more front wing, to pin the front of those cars more in the corners to stop that scrubbing. When you scrub with understeer, you create way too much heat, and heat creates the blisters that was experienced earlier by Emerson.
Update on the Penske cars, Jan Beekes.
Well, first of all, when you're talking about those blisters on the front of Emerson's car, the blisters were in the middle, which would lead me to believe that the pressure was a little too high. We checked in with Paul Tracy because he is slowing down, like you said, in the clutches of Al Jr. They said, no, he is not experiencing the same problem that Emerson had.
Paul Tracy has fallen to third. The race is now led by Al Unser Jr., chased by Nigel Mansell. Mansell's fallen back about 2.2 seconds. Intervening, of course, is Michael Andretti. You got a little glimpse of the interval there. Mansell needs to handle up Michael Andretti so he can get back in touch with the lead.
Michael, who came here expected to be the fastest Reynard runner, was, he said, downright scared on Friday morning because the handling of the car was so bad.
This gives you the interval here.
They did work on it. He wasn't to his liking, and it's not as good as he needs because he's normally a front runner, particularly on these ovals.
On this short little track, Al Unser Jr. has almost a straightaway lead now.
See, Michael, you can actually see him look in his mirror. He looks down to the left side of the car in the mirror to see where Mansell is before he decides to come down to the line he wants to use. He wanted to make sure Mansell didn't already occupy that piece of road. That's Matt Schuster running very slowly down the middle of the racetrack.
Mansell still trying to conquer Michael Andretti. Michael is the 7th place car and the last car on the lead lap.
Michael's fastest
lap. Well, actually not on the lead lap once Al Unser Jr. got past him, but the last one on the lead lap that Nigel has to encounter. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but to give you an idea of the speed Michael does, 159 is his fastest lap. That is 4 miles an hour slower than an Al Unser Jr. lap in the Penske.
76 laps complete. 76 laps. We should be seeing stops anytime now. Of course, that early yellow made a world of difference. Indications are Paul Tracy will probably come in on the 82nd lap.
10 laps from now, and 10 laps does not take very long when you fly around these 1-mile ovals, but you can bet there will be close examination of tires because the neutral handling car that Al Jr. has is what they will try and replicate on Emerson's and Tracy's.
Well, Nigel Mansell cannot seem to either catch or get around Michael Andretti.
Is replicate a word?
It certainly is.
It certainly is now.
78 laps complete, 78 miles. Let's go to the front of the field. Al Unser Jr. due to pit any time now. That's Mark Smith to the outside. His beautiful Blue Max helmet. If you come to an IndyCar race, make sure you go see Mark Smith's helmet. It's magnificent. Al Unser Jr. on the backstretch. Due to stop any time now.
Engineered by Terry Satchel. He's the one that listens to Al Jr., tries to give him what he wants. Richard Buck is his chief mechanic. What a team they have become this year, how they enjoy the success. And the package just seems to be right this year for Al Jr.
Now just take a guess of the pressure that the teams now feel in the pits. They know the leader's on the way. Little Al has been in a valiant fight that put him in the lead. Any mistake at all, a half a second, can blow this whole race. So the pressure now shifts from the driver and over to the crew, and it's tremendous. Jan Beekes is there.
Al Unser Jr. brings it to a stop. We take a quick look. There's very small blisters on that tire, but nothing near what Fittipaldi had. It looks like this car, just like you said, gentlemen, is working fine. No changes on the front wing. Boy, that was a quick tires. They're just waiting for fuel. Now Unser Jr. Whoa! Whoa! Well, I think there could possibly be a problem. When he stuck that thing in gear, it really made a gearbox type sound. Keep an eye on Al Jr. That thing really slammed into gear.
All right, we'll keep an eye on Al Unser Jr. This is Mario Andretti into the pits as fourth place. Stop routine for him. He likes the tires on the way out. Pit speed is 80 miles an hour, but Mario's down at the end of the pits. Paul Tracy now in, Jan.
First of all, we saw the other Penske car. Now we see Paul Tracy. His tires were absolutely clean. Boy, that was a quicker pit stop for Paul Tracy. Boy, he lights him up. He's out of here, Paul. No gearbox sound for Tracy like we had for Al Jr.
Terrific stop for Tracy. Nigel Mansell stays out, assumes the lead on the stops, but of course is due to come in as well. He's completed 83 laps under the green, and he's decided he can go further.
And this is when you fully understand what teamwork means in IndyCar racing, because sometimes if you can't make the pass on the racetrack, your crew will actually help you make it out or in the pit lane. Vice versa, if they make a mistake, you can be in trouble. But Mansell, we believe, is on the way to his pit.
Nigel Mansell due in now. Raul Boesel will pick up the lead if he does not come in. So the Newman Haas crew ready to go to work, and Gary Gerald is there.
Tom Wirtz will wave him into position, crosses the yellow line. Now Mansell comes down pit road after Mario already made his stop. The luxury of a wide open spacing for the defending champion. He said last year this was one of the most exhilarating races of his career. It fell on his birthday. He'd love to get his first victory of '94 here today. Routine service. They'll go down a turn on that left front. They've done it. He's away in 14 seconds flat.
Nigel Mansell rolls out, but Raul Boesel was out way ahead of him. He pitted simultaneously, but well back in the pits. There's Raul as he comes back up to speed, and Al Unser Jr. will come back to the lead of the race. So the first round of stops complete on lap 85. The early yellow being very helpful with fuel to the stops and turning this into a two-stop race.
So now the key to seeing how well the crews did is how do your drivers come back out on the racetrack after their race for 2 or 3 laps. Clearly Al Jr. still in the lead. His crew did a good job, and an equally good job by Paul Tracy, although we thought he was maybe a second quicker during his actual stop.
Yeah, but the job of the Dick Simon team, Raul Boesel, comes out of the pits in 7th place, and he is now just in front of the leader and in danger of going a lap down. But the stops did put 7 cars back on the lead lap, led by Al Unser Jr. We'll be back. The Slick 5200. The leader of the race is Al Unser Jr. after the first stop. Nigel Mansell is second, followed by Paul Tracy, Emerson Fittipaldi, and Mario Andretti, and there is plenty of traffic. Look at Mansell as he continues its attack on the leader. Down to the inside. He sweeps to the outside along Rahal. And he is very definitely pursuing Al Unser Jr. The report by the crew after that stop for Mansell was that his tires were in great shape.
Well, we didn't see the Penske cars of Tracy or Al Jr. make any major changes to those front wings, so we know they're pretty good. We know by Mansell's speed, he's good. Now, these particular corners suit Mansell's style. He's brave, he likes to go very late and deep, and he's very good at reading traffic. He uses traffic very well to his advantage.
It astounded me last year at the joy that he took out of driving on ovals. One would think that he wouldn't like it. In fact, most former Formula One drivers, yourself included, Derek, I remember when you first ran Phoenix, and you weren't at all pleased with how busy it was at first.
That's the thing. Then you get used to it. Then you realize how good, how close, and how much of a technique it takes to drive an oval. Then you begin to enjoy it.
Teo Fabi was very quick in the practice, and now he's in the pits with a problem, Jan.
Well, Teo Fabi has just brought his car in, and at first the Jim Hall crew thought they could get it fixed, but it looks like a broken header for the Pennzoil machine. Just where they put the side pod on there at the moment, underneath there is where the exhaust system is. That broke, and you can actually see that the paint is bubbled. And we'll try and get a word with Teo here in a moment.
They were working on that car with a new addition, not a shark fin like you see on Little Al's car, but a wider cowling behind the pop-off valve on Teo's car, which they said were helping the aerodynamics on the short ovals. Also, remember, Teo Fabi has announced he will not be back with Jim Hall Racing next year. But he did say that he sure would like to be in the Indy cars.
Interesting that he announced that. It was actually, yeah, it was. Jim Hall told him his services would no longer be required with this team for next year. Rumor has it he may go and form his own German touring car team and drive it for next year.
Let's go to Jan Vikas.
Teo, first of all, what puts you out? And also, we were just talking about your plans for next year.
Well, I had a broken exhaust. That's the reason why we stopped. And I think I have a very good opportunity for next year, so I will be back.
So you can't tell us who yet, though? Can you tell us who that'll be with?
I don't know yet, but I feel good opportunity, and I'm sure one is going to work.
Thank you, Teo.
The best version I ever heard of that uttered was Derek Daly, who said, our plans for next year will be very, very exciting. And you didn't have a thing, did you?
I didn't have a single thing. But somebody who's actually shadowed the Pennzoil team all this week, and in fact 2 weeks ago also, was Derek Warwick. He is still here, still wants to become an IndyCar driver.
Al Unser Jr. leads the race now by almost 2 seconds over Nigel Mansell. That battle is broken off at the front.
Here's something that's a bit scary for Robbie Gordon. We saw Al Jr. just lap him once again. He just radioed in. He said, I've never been as afraid of a car as I am right now. Robbie Gordon, who we're on board with now, has his hands full with the Valvoline car in all sorts of trouble.
There's the Ford Electronics telemetry. Running in 5th gear, up above 1,200 RPM, topped at 178 miles an hour.
Give you an idea how much different that is from qualifying. 198 they hit during qualifying. It's 20 miles an hour slower. Believe me, between the concrete walls, when you're uncomfortable, you're actually scared in the racing car.
An interesting admission for Robbie Gordon. So you see his whole demeanor is one of being fearless.
Brash Gordon, you would never believe is scared in anything. He is uncomfortable.
Al Unser Jr. just flashed over the line with the 101st lap. It is now, should rain come into the picture, and we don't have any indication of that at this moment, but should it rain, it is a legal race. They could flag the race and declare a winner.
Now, you might be interested to know how we can't see Robbie Gordon sawing at the wheel, even though he's in so much trouble. The key to oval track racing is you have to feel it before it happens, because when that happens, it's already too late.
Well, let's check in on that comment from Gordon. Here's Gary Gerald in the Walker pits.
Eric, we understand your driver has radioed that he's got a real handful. Is this a dangerous situation?
Well, it's certainly a handful. You know, we didn't really give him a very good car, I don't think, today, and he's really having his job cut out for him. But we're running for as many points as we can get and try to, you know, get our pit stop so we can try and correct it.
Now, how much of this may rest in the fact that he missed your warm-up session this morning and you had to go recruit Buddy Lazier to get a few laps in the car?
Well, maybe it might have given us an indication, but the temperature was a little different in the morning to what it is now, so you never can tell. You know, until you actually race, you don't really know what it's going to do.
Did you figure out where Robbie was at 9 o'clock this morning?
I think he was having a lie-in. He was sort of, he didn't get his wake-up call, so he kind of got left behind. But we're doing the best we can, and we're trying to get some points, keep running.
Thank you, Derek. Been a crazy day for this team, Paul.
Yeah, there is good news for that team, though. Starting 24th was another team member, Willie T. Ribbs. He now runs in 12th place. 105 laps are complete. Al Unser Jr., Nigel Mansell, Paul Tracy, Fittipaldi, and Mario Andretti, the top 5, as the action continues. International Speedway, the Slick 5200, under yellow again. Mario Andretti, with damage, sits out toward the wall. An interesting situation. Teammates involved.
Teammates crashing into each other. Mansell much quicker off 4. Down inside, top of your screen. Mansell is clearly past Mario. Mario obviously doesn't see him. I presume he didn't see him. Moves down when Mansell was clearly ahead. And Mario, unfortunately, makes very heavy contact with the outside wall and is still trapped in the car.
They're going to take their time with Mario. He's talking to the rescuers. He's conscious, moving around. They just want to make sure they can get him out without hurting him. Here it is. Look at the top of your screen again.
Mario must not have seen Nigel. Nigel's off the racetrack. Now he's ahead of him. Look at his front wheels. Ahead of Mario's. Mario's left front drives over the top. Jump on the brakes. And goes into it again, into the wall.
Mario down that low. Nigel, centrifugal force was pulling him up. Very gingerly gets out of the car.
Glad to see him get out. One of the biggest problems with hitting concrete walls with that side impact is the damage the right front wheel can do. That's what damaged Brian Herta up at Toronto.
But it's intact,
it
though.
Is
you
intact.
Wonder what else might have, because they're looking at that right leg. Rick Reineman, as Emerson Fittipaldi comes in. Jan Beekes is there.
Yes, the first thing we took a look at was the front tires, and there were no blisters on Emerson Fittipaldi's tire this time. You can see they're making a change. It looks like about a turn and a half of front wing, and Emerson Fittipaldi is underway. The thing is, Paul, we're not sure if he's in the pit window. This seems awfully early to go all the way to the end.
111 laps, Jan. I imagine what they're counting on there is that this race has been punctuated by 4 yellows in the first 111 miles, and they're going to assume that there's going to be another one. Let's go back and take a look at the situation as Mario limps over to the ambulance.
Watch Mansell's position on the racetrack. He's now side by side. He goes off the racetrack into the yellow. Now he can't make the corner. So look, he begins to come back over the yellow line. He comes up a full car length from the yellow line. Now, if Mansell got down there and didn't have the grip in the front, he actually slid up into Mario. But in fairness, Mansell was already ahead of Mario. I think Mario should have given him more room, and that accident may not have happened.
He did have a nose in front of Andretti when they actually got together. So we're back under yellow. Al Unser Jr. leads it. Nigel Mansell is still in second place, but of course there is a question about the stability of Nigel Mansell's car. It'll be answered shortly. Indy cars, Jens Wimtal, as he has the green flag ready. The field is on the backstretch. The PPG pace car has already accelerated on the warm-up lane down toward the pits. Al Unser Jr. has picked up the pace, and we're ready to go back to racing speed. Al Unser Jr. got a great restart there. Mansell in traffic trying to pursue. So there are some questions about this race car. He tapped his teammate Mario Andretti setting up this yellow. Here is Raul Boisel closing on him and blows him away pretty quick.
Well, we may have a problem with Mansell. We'll try and get a good look. We can't see any of the right front suspension damage. Usually you see a steering arm or something bent, but Boisel blew by Mansell.
Now that just gets Bosell in 5th place. Mansell's still in 2nd. Gary Gerald, do you have any idea on the condition of Mansell's car?
No, other than the report of grip, but the crew has laid out fresh rubber. They're waiting for him on pit road. Nigel, just before the green, issued his apology on the radio, told the crew, please tell Mario I'm sorry. He felt like he was down as low as he could get over there in turn number 1. So now they're waving on pit road, and we await Nigel Mansell.
Mansell on the pit road, making the run down into the pits. Paul Tracy and Emerson Fittipaldi go into 2nd and 3rd as Mansell comes on the pit road. Gary Gerald, give us the call.
Well, we watch and we'll see what the crew does. Immediately, of course, they'll change all 4 of those wheels, get the fresh rubber and the fuel, and we'll see if they look and change anything else. Tommy Wirtz taking a look. Everything appears to be routine, Paul. I'm very surprised. No, now they stall. He grabs the clutch, pops it in gear. Now he's back up to speed as he accelerates on pit road.
And I didn't see anything obvious in the right front.
No, that was Timmy Coffeen going through his workout for the day, trying to push start Mansell. I'm glad he followed up on that rear wing, but what a costly pit stop for Mansell, who could have made it under yellow flag conditions and had to make it under green. But we're still not sure whether that tire change has actually cured it.
122 laps are complete. 200 laps of scheduled distance. We're running at 108 miles an hour. Gary, an update on Nigel?
Yeah, the crew's assessment was basically what you saw, Paul, and it indicated that everything looked good. But Nigel was not comfortable when the green came out. The car was not handling to his satisfaction. That's why they took that drastic move of coming in. It may well be a move that may have cost him the race now. Let's go to Jan.
Well, you're talking about right front tires, and Raul Boisel is a guy that radioed in, says the car is balanced, but I have a big vibration in the right front. We told Dick Simon that some of the teams had actually blistering right front tires. They got very concerned, but now they feel it's just a vibration problem, not a blistering problem.
Have we seen this before in the season? The first 3. Hunter Jr., Tracy, Fittipaldi, all Penske. The only ones on the leader lap.
And Mansell is still in trouble. You can see it. Bosell again pulls down to the outside and blows by him. Watch how easy it is for the Penske. Mansell is in trouble. He is in trouble. He doesn't like to drive racing cars that are scary. I'm sure he's on his way to the pits again.
At the same time, Raul Boisel has definitely picked up his pace as he moved into 4th, got around Michael Andretti to accomplish that. And so Raul Boisel, who was very fast in qualifying, finally got going here, is beginning to move in. Let's go back in the field. 10th place is Adrian Fernandez. Remember, he had that spin right at the start. There's your onboard camera. Just ahead of him is Scott Sharp as we take a look at the Delco Electronics telemetry here. Keep an eye on those lateral G's. Look at those things built in the corner.
What a colorful billboard Adrian Fernandez in the Gallus car is. Very colorful. Well, this is a good example of a driver growing in confidence, becoming much more mature. At Mid-Ohio, able to race wheel to wheel with some of the names that he only dreamt and read about for so many years. Big star name in Mexico.
Yeah, colorful billboard, but that one blocks our view of the dashboard. You don't think that's intentional, do you? We got this other dashboard.
We got the other Delco dashboard.
Couple of different camera positions on that car, by the way, one of them looking backwards.
Now, Fernandez did have some trouble because when we were under yellow, he made 2 pit stops, one after the other, trying to correct whatever it was.
Adrian Fernandez rear view. There's the Mexican flag, which he carries today because it's election day in Mexico and he wishes that he were part of it. So this is how he shows his patriotism. Nigel Mansell into the pits once again, Gary.
Paul, he radioed in and says, I can't drive the car the way it is right now. Now, it may be premature to say that he is totally out of the competition. We'll wait and see if he shuts the engine down. He's coasted to a stop. Engine still running up on the jacks. Looking now on the front suspension, both sides. Right rear's off. Now the engine's off. Wheel comes off. Nigel Mansell's day is apparently done. So the frustration for the defending champion of this race, the defending champion of the series, has just escalated another notch.
For us or the crew to say you can't immediately see something wrong, remember that as little as a thousandth of an inch change can make a world of difference on the car.
That is right. And the car gives you all the information you need. You need to be able to read that information properly before it gets you into trouble.
The 6th place car, Dominic Dobson. His teammate, Scott Sharp, the one that got upside down. These cars are very similar in terms of their appearance. The only change really in the color of the roll bar. Dominic's is red, Scott's is blue. Scott's is out of the race.
And this may become the second 3-car team of this season, because there is a rumor that is gathering momentum that Danny Sullivan, who tested for this team at Mid-Ohio, may in fact run a 3rd car with PacWest at Vancouver. What a wealth of experience he would be to come into this team to help Dominic Dobson and Scott Sharp.
Well, and what a good relationship he has with the team's engineer, Alan Mertens. And in fact, it makes you wonder, did that test of that car help with the performance of this car here today?
Possibly. When you come into a game like IndyCar racing that's as competitive and as difficult to succeed in, you come in with a totally new team, a new package, it is very difficult to be successful. John Anderson, who's the team manager, has done a very good job here.
Nigel Mansell out of the car with Gary Gerald.
Nigel, what proved to be the problem? Was it the contact with your teammate?
I think so. The car just wasn't handling at all after that, and just a great shame for the Newman Haas team.
Tell us now about the incident. It looked like you were trying to tuck down as far as you could as you went into turn 1.
Yeah, I got a great slipstream down the straight, and I was lapping, and I thought I was virtually almost half a car in front, and I saw Mario start to come across, and I tried to give him as much room as I possibly could, and came down on the inside of the pit lane, and it's just one of those things. I'm just so sorry it happened for him and happened to me.
Talk about the frustration of this season as the defending champion of this race and of the series, and how you just seemingly can't buy a break in 1994.
Well, unfortunately, that's motor racing, and you know, what happened today was unfortunately just a racing accident, and yeah, we were going very well. I was very happy, and I had little Al in my sights. I think there's only about 2 or 3 seconds between us, and I was just looking forward towards the end of the race.
Thank you, Nigel. We've got a problem with the leader, Paul?
Yeah, a real strange thing, Gary. I think he'd intended to come into the pits. He slowed drastically, and then he came back up to race speed. Jan Vikas?
What I can tell you, Paul, is it was a big surprise for the Penske crew. We were standing right here. All of a sudden, they just dove over the wall to service Alonso Jr., and then he did not come in. We will find out exactly, but I would speculate maybe some kind of electrical problem, and maybe he switched over to a backup, and now he's up to speed.
He was over and alongside the Guzman car. Suddenly, it shot ahead of Little Al. Then Little Al got it back under power and got going again. Boy, no indication at all. A very strange-looking sight.
I don't know what that was. We know it doesn't slip out of gear because they never really touch the gear shift on these cars. They stay in either 5th or 6th gear, 5th if they want more revs. But Al Jr. certainly seems to have recovered from whatever moment that was beside Maurizio Gugelmin.
He just turned the last lap at 160 miles an hour. That's only 3 off of his fastest lap in the race. And now the crew is radioing back and forth to him, and they're saying he doesn't intend to come in now. 140 laps are complete. Penske cars 1, 2, 3 at New Hampshire. But the question mark is on Little Al's car. New Hampshire, on board Michael Andretti's car. He runs in 5th place. Dominic Dobson is set up just behind him and closing as we take a look at the Valvoline race summary after 141 laps. More than our share of caution laps, 35, 10 cars out of the race. A couple like Scott Sharp and Jacques Villeneuve with some fairly substantial damage to the cars. The good news is everybody's okay. Ari Leyendyk suffered a strain to his right wrist, but even he says no problem. He'll be back racing right away. Look at Dobson.
And it is a battle.
Racy with Michael.
It is a battle for position. The Lola with the Ford engine versus the Reynard chassis with the Ford engine. Dobson has slowly caught up behind Michael Andretti. We're going to watch to see, is there a different line or something different Dobson can do to try and force his way by Michael. Michael is 5th and Dominic Dobson is 6th.
All right, that situation with Little Al where he suddenly slowed and then came back on the pace. Jan Beekes, you have any idea what that was?
Paul, it turns out that we were very close. We speculated possibly an electrical problem. What happened was he had a fuel pickup problem that they thought was a software glitch. So Al Unser Jr. reached up and turned the fuel mixture knob, and actually by changing that fuel mixture knob, he was able to get the thing working again. So a software problem, but Al Unser Jr. very quick to make an adjustment in the cockpit.
You can see him out there in front of Rahal. Boy, I hesitate to ask Jan this. Boy, there's Jimmy Vasser alongside of Rahal. I'm not even going to ask. The explanation of how just richening it up helped is probably going to take us the next 2 or 3 hours. Except you'd probably do it in a sentence or two, Derek?
No. What was curious to me is what fuel mixture was.
Jimmy Vasser, the 18 car, started 12th, now runs in 7th. Robbie Gordon just behind him, though not a battle for position.
And we know Gordon's had his hands full. Now he gets to try and hold on to Jimmy Vasser. Both from California, have spent lots of time. They're good friends, these boys, but when it comes to the racetrack, it's every man for himself. But now we get another good chance to look at the Ford Electronics telemetry, real-time telemetry from Gordon's car. Low speed through turn 4. 110 miles an hour.
Michael Andretti, Dominic Dobson to the outside. Dominic bottled up behind Gordon. Boy, he had a good run on him for a moment.
Oh, that's Paul Tracy
up behind him. Yep.
That was a good usage of traffic by Michael Andretti. He knew that Dobson would get blocked in behind Robbie Gordon, and he used it to his advantage. But Dobson knows he's faster than Michael.
And here comes Little Al in the pits, Jan Beekes.
Yes, he brings it around his teammate Paul Tracy's tire. He brings it to a stop right on the marks. We're not looking for any changes here. This is a scheduled stop, and behind him is Paul Tracy getting service at the same time. We're waiting for all the fuel to come in for Al Unser Jr. He's waiting for the signal from Roger Penske, and he's on his way. Let's go to Gary, who's with Paul.
And Paul Tracy also in, lighting up the tires as he exits after routine service, but under the green flag. We may get an interesting wrinkle to this one before it's all over.
13.7 seconds the stop for Al Unser Jr. The pit speed limit 80 miles an hour, but Penske's way down at the far end, so they can come out pretty quick. Gary Gerald.
We also wanted to mention the fact that we knew that Emerson Fittipaldi is going to have to also make a stop. He can't go the rest of the way. He doesn't have enough fuel. If they stay green, he can only get to about 192, which would put him 8 laps short. So we figure the other Penske car will also be making a stop sometime yet.
Jimmy Vasser in now to the pits, routine stop as well. These will be the last stops of the race here on the 153rd lap.
Look at the traffic jam now into turn 3. Al Jr. comes down the inside, behaves himself, looks around, assesses the situation, and then moves high through turn 4, back out into the racing groove. Quick look there again at Dominic Dobson. And where's Michael?
Michael Andretti coming off at 2 right now, so the battle very definitely is broken off. You're on board with Michael there. Fittipaldi, by the way, has a 22-second lead now over Al Unser Jr. 22 seconds is certainly longer than a pit stop, but with roll in and with roll out time, it's going to be pretty close. He's got a whole pit to do at 80 miles an hour, though, so you assume Little Al's going to get by. But still, you can't assume too much.
That is the big problem. 80 miles an hour. Believe it or not, it's so slow when you come down that pit lane. You just lose second after second. Al Jr. knows that, but it might make an interesting crew fight if they can get Emerson in and out in record speed.
Well, if you're talking individual discipline, as Little Al and Michael are alongside one another, the real question is, can Fittipaldi continue? Look at him sweep to the outside. Can Fittipaldi maintain, or Tracy sweeping to the outside, can Fittipaldi maintain the discipline to stay at 80 miles an hour? So Paul Tracy closing on his teammate Al Unser Jr. in what is developing as a battle for second place.
And remember how Mansell outfoxed Tracy in traffic last year and took away a possible win. Maybe Tracy learned something. Maybe he can use the traffic to his advantage and try and go around Al Unser Jr. I don't believe they'll be under team orders. Do you think so?
No, I don't think so. This is the only battle on the circuit right now. Fight for second, Al Unser Jr. and Paul Tracy. We keep watching for Fittipaldi's stop.
Tracy, who had that flamboyant style for so long that got him in so much trouble, now being guided by his engineer Nigel Beresford and Rick Mears. They are the people who helped Paul Tracy sort his car out and his race weekend. And he really hasn't had the type of incidents this year that we've become almost accustomed to seeing Paul Tracy have.
Emerson Fittipaldi out in front. They're whittling away at him, though. They've taken 2 seconds off this battle for with Tracy and Unser Jr., which is only separated by 7/10. But Fittipaldi had a 22-second lead 4 laps ago. He's down to an 18.7-second lead. So we keep an eye on Fittipaldi, watching for his intent with regard to the pits. And the Penske cars are still 1, 2, and 3. National Speedway, the Slick 50-200. Next weekend, Speed World begins Saturday at 7:30 p.m. with NASCAR and the Goodies 500, and continues Sunday at 7:50 a.m. Eastern with Formula One, the Belgium Grand Prix. Speed World next week here on ESPN. There's the leader of the race, Emerson Fittipaldi, an 18.8-second lead on his teammates. Second place, Al Unser Jr. Paul Tracy is third. Let's go to the pits and Jan Beekens.
Our fourth place running Raul Boisel has brought it into the pits, and he will finally get a new right front tire. We can tell you it was not blistered. It must just have not been balanced. Boy, that was a quick stop. He almost killed it, but Raul Boisel is out of here.
Took over 12 seconds as he comes up to the 80-mile-an-hour speed limit. Boisel in 5th place.
Yeah, just drops him down because of that pit stop. Michael Andretti inherits that 4th place, but we do believe he may have to make another stop. But Boisel is the leader of his class at the moment, because these Penske cars, as they have been most of the year, are in a different class when it comes to the race. So Boisel having a quiet afternoon, but not in contention for a win.
Michael Andretti has been in the pits 5 times, the last time 56 laps ago. With Adrian Fernandez running 8. Had a little trouble on the start, getting sideways, set off a chain reaction accident, but since then's had a good day.
How to duck a hail of machine gun fire. You get a good look over his shoulder at the Delco Electronics. Off the throttle, look at the lateral G's build up, and his head leans on that headrest as the G's build up. Watch the G's disappear. Disappears and his head comes off the headrest. You cannot do 200 laps around here and hope to hold your head and your helmet with your own neck muscles. You do need support.
Well, Arnold Schwarzenegger could do it.
He probably could, and maybe, I believe, does Mario use a neck strap? No, he doesn't use a neck strap, but he does use a cushion on the outside. These cars are so fast now around the corners that you're physically not strong enough with your own neck muscles. Fernandez having a good day. Nothing gives a driver confidence more than having mileage in races, racing wheel to wheel with the big names. Then you know you can do it. Then suddenly things get better. Sometimes they even get easier.
Johnny Unser there in the 19 car. Scott Goodyear started in 23rd place. Now he runs in 9th place, the winner of the Michigan 500. And some question about his future, the future of the Budweiser sponsorship and of the team for next year.
I would have thought that Scott Goodyear is a desirable entity, a race winner, as we've seen many times. Such a shame this marriage between Kenny Bernstein's team and Scott Goodyear just did not go right from day one. But Goodyear won't even hardly remember that Michigan 500 win, because this season has been such a struggle. But he is talking to everybody right now, and I'm sure he will find good employment for next season.
At the top of the field, Emerson Fittipaldi, as you ride on board Bobby Rahal's car. The Honda's made it 174 laps.
I think one of the reasons Rahal was disappointed was that the speed of progress was one of the biggest disappointments he found with the Honda engine program this year. And he just says, first and foremost, I'm here to win for my team, and secondly, I have to service my sponsors. So the decision was made to drop the
Alonso Jr. as he dials around the outside. Willie T. Ribbs now running in 11th place. Great run for Willie T. Started 24th. So he's showing some stuff here today, one of the other Walker Motorsports cars.
And he has bigger and better backing from Bill Cosby for next year. Bill Cosby was largely responsible for the service merchandise logo that you see on the side of this car. That was what finances some of Willie T's racing, but he will be back bigger and better next year.
Let's go pit side. Gary Gerald.
Well, with just over 20 laps to go, let's update the situation for Emerson Fittipaldi. They now know that they're going to be at least 5 laps short if it stays green the rest of the way. The crew plays for yellow. If they get yellow, it's a huge break. If it stays green, they'll have to come in for a splash of fuel. Can he get out in time to protect the lead? Second thing we need to update, Mario Andretti has been released from the safety center, has gone back to his motor coach. He has a bruised thigh. So good news for Mario, Paul.
Well, they were looking at his right leg, so that explains that. Emerson Fittipaldi pulled to 21 seconds ahead of second place Al Unser Jr. after dropping to 18.5 seconds ahead. He's now at 19.5 seconds. EDS scoring computer helpful not only for the crews down in the pits where they can keep track of everything, but it sure helps us keep track of everything too, as well as give you all that information like we're running across the bottom of the screen today.
Now sometimes it takes longer to change wheels and tires than it will to do a timed stop. Emerson, we know, blistered the tires earlier, but if he thinks that he can make it through on this set of tires, it may prompt him to take a gamble of just doing a timed fuel stop and trying to beat Al Jr. back out of the pits.
So Emerson Fittipaldi has the lead with 179 laps complete, and Penske's are still the top 3. Back at the Slick 5200, Emerson Fittipaldi still due for a stop any time now. 15 laps to go in the run. Al Unser Jr. is in second place now, 17 seconds back. Paul Tracy is third, then Michael Andretti and Raul Boesel. We give you the entire rundown across the bottom of your screen. The question is Fittipaldi. Is 18, 19 seconds in front long enough? I don't think so. But then it doesn't have to be much of a stop either.
Just a splash and go. Here he goes down the inside of Tracy. Which may suggest that those tires are still in fairly good shape. Scott Goodyear moves to the outside. That was Marco Greco down the inside.
Goodyear got way up high to get out of the way.
But this could set up a very interesting pit stop if he keeps the tires and just dumps as much fuel as he thinks he needs for that last, or for the 5 laps that he can't make it.
All right, now that's what they have told us. Not that they would misrepresent, but they are looking at telemetry on the car. They're looking at now a 20-second lead. Is there a point here as we move toward the final 10 miles in which you say, hey, Emo, if you slow it down just this much, you can get your fuel to the end? Is that in the calculation?
No, 5 miles worth of fuel with this short a distance to go can never be saved by just backing out of it a little bit. You'd have to back out way too much, and Al Unser Jr. and Tracy would gobble that lead up very, very quickly.
So the man of the moment remains Emerson Fittipaldi. The question will remain Al Unser Jr., Jan Beacon.
Well, at the moment, it's Michael Andretti who's in the pits, who had to come in for a splash and go. There he is. He got it. He lights up the tires, and he's out of here. But that's really going to drop him out of his 4th place position.
Came in 4th. Boesel was running in 5th. See if Boesel gets him as they come out of the pits.
What a gamble it is sometimes if you do try and stretch the fuel more than it can go. Yellow flags, though, can be a godsend to a situation like this for Fittipaldi, but you just can't plan on something like that. But right now, the tires look good to me because he's just as fast as the man running second, Paul Tracy, our third, Paul Tracy.
Boesel did get around Michael Andretti as Michael made that flash and go stop. And the indication now as we cross the 191st mile is that in just 4 miles, Fittipaldi will run for the pits and make his stop.
That was Gugelmin, who moved down to the inside in the Hollywood Reynard, not having a good weekend, not just a good day, hasn't had a good weekend at all. Fernandez now moves to the inside, lets the leaders go through.
Fittipaldi is still flying. He ran a lap just a few laps ago, the fastest of the race at 164.5 miles an hour. Last lap, he was way down through traffic at 153.
And there you saw that confident outside line that those Penske drivers are able to take. There is a confidence that the car tells you that allows you to go right up beside the concrete wall, and you see other drivers and cars down the inside, which shows they're not happy with the handling or the tires or something on their particular car.
Rick Reineman and the rest of Fittipaldi's crew is ready on the wall. Now Rick comes over the wall and the rest of the crew begins to lay out. So Fittipaldi due in here on the end of this lap.
Now Emerson knows the in and the out lap are vital if he's not to lose too much time. So he needs to peel off at turn 4 as quickly as possible and get down. There he goes.
All right, Fittipaldi gets it down under the 80 miles an hour. This is going to be an incredibly long time. He wobbles just a bit. Under braking, Gary Gerald, he's coming toward you.
And the crowd has come to its feet across the racetrack watching. Here's Emmo. It'll be very quick. Pressure on the crew. They'll get the fuel, and then he's got to keep it under 80 miles an hour on the exit. He's rolling in 5.9 seconds. Now, will he be able to hang on to the lead? I don't think so. No.
Al Unser Jr. comes by on the pit exit. Fittipaldi into second place.
And it was a timed pit stop for fuel, no tires.
Paul Tracy got around as well, so that puts Fittipaldi back into third place.
So now when we saw Fittipaldi trying to pass Tracy, that was to put a lap on him. Now it is a battle for position to see if he can catch and pass Paul Tracy.
A little gift for Al Unser Jr. as the Fittipaldi pit stop is too long. The run down the pits, very costly to him, though he maintained the legal limit. And now with 4 laps to go, it's catch-up for Paul Tracy trying to catch Al Unser Jr. Fittipaldi fell off to third.
And 4 laps sounds a lot sometimes, but it's only 4 miles here. But look at the battle here for the lead. Al Jr. was caught behind the traffic of Michael Andretti as Jimmy Vasser moves aside.
Now 3 laps to go. Tracy on the charge. There's Tracy. There is little Al just ahead. They get around Jimmy Vasser. Boy, look at how far out. Paul Tracy's able to dial the car and come off the corner.
And there is another traffic jam that Al Unser Jr. has to pass. There's 4 cars, including Bozell, Michael, Willie T. Ribbs, and Goodyear.
Little Al comes down to get bottled up behind that. Tracy's closing now. Tracy looking for room to race on Little Al. Fittipaldi is closing too. Little Al comes to the inside. Just about a lap and a half to go now.
3 wide, and Tracy needs a good run in traffic if he's to catch Al Jr. All 3 Penske cars are in a line without team orders.
They cross the line. Al Unser Jr. in front. The white flag being given to all 3 at the top. Tracy in closing position. Fittipaldi in third, and he closes in. On the backstretch, the final lap of the run.
Too far behind for Tracy. He's too far behind to make a run.
Al Unser Jr. makes his final turn off the corner, and Al Unser Jr. picking up the lead in the last 5 laps, takes the 26th win of his career and the 7th of the year, and takes another jump in PPG points. Al Unser Jr. has taken the win at New Hampshire. Has been run at New Hampshire International. Al Unser Jr. takes the win. Penske cars 1, 2, 3. Raul Boesel first in class, finishing in 4th. Take a look at some excellent results in the middle of all of this. People like Adrian Fernandez, Dominic Dobson, Jimmy Vasser, all with good results today as we take a look at the unofficial results of today's run, and some carnage there to cars like Lion Dykes and Villeneuve and Mario Andretti. Now let's talk with the winner. Here's Gary Gerald.
For the 4th time this year, the Penske juggernaut, 1, 2, 3. Junior, did you know how close and quickly they were closing in those last 5 laps after you got the lead on Emerson's Splash and Go?
Yeah, I did. You know, I realized how close they were coming and all that, but, you know, I was trying to get Michael, but I couldn't take any big chances, and Michael was running just quick enough there at the end that I just couldn't stick my nose up on the outside coming off. He was leaving me room, but you know, it was just one of those things on taking the chance. And
about 60 laps to go, you had a glitch. You suddenly slowed. We understand you made an adjustment on the mixture of the fuel, and it cleared up. Do you have any idea what happened?
No, I really don't. It was something with the computer, of course, or something with, it was fuel pressure was what the problem was, and I lost fuel pressure, and I just switched to another map, and it came back on. So, you know, we were very lucky on the Marlboro Team Penske.
Guys. And the wins just keep stacking up. Congratulations.
Thanks. I want to say hello to little Al and Cody and Shannon at home, and this one's for you, kids.
Paul?
Well, when you're the winner, you can do things like that. A 40-point lead Al Unser Jr. now has over Emerson Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy. The Indy cars next go on to Vancouver, Canada, all the way across the country, and we'll have coverage there right here on ESPN. I'm Paul Page for Derek Daly, Jan Vikas, and Gary Gerald. So long from the Indy cars.